Pittsburgh. But Arians thinks Brown will be starting from square one when he joins the Bucs. He said, when I left, they changed the terminology in Pittsburgh for all those years he played, so it'll pretty much be ground zero with him. Other than the route tree, we run routes and things like that. It'll be a big adjustment for him, but we'll get him up to speed. He can officially join the team after Week 8, and the Bucs face the Saints Week 9. He had 4 receptions for 56 yards and a touchdown, the only game he played with Brady last season.
Did you see that Chris Godwin broke a finger, so he's out? So he's going to get snaps when he's... The question you and I both have is, when Godwin and Mike Evans are eventually healthy, and we're thinking it's this year,
right,
the question will become with Scotty Miller, like, where do you get... They're going to be a lot... You're going to have 3 elite premier, well, at least 2 superstar-level wide receivers.
I'm not going to assume that Antonio Brown is going to come in and look like he did in that game with the Patriots, because it's been a long time since he's played football. But if Chris Godwin is hurt for a significant amount of time and Antonio Brown comes in and starts to develop that kind of chemistry with Tom Brady, there's not going to be really a whole lot of complaining that's merited, because and Chris Godwin is a great player and has been a good teammate for the Bucs, but if you're not available, you're not there.
Listen, I said that. Did I say this to you the other day? Like, I went to Jay Glazer Sunday off the air, and I said, some of this feels like Brady is getting tired of these guys always having a hamstring issue. You can play with a broken finger, by the way. It's the NFL. Everybody does. So it's like, at some point, do you bring AB in to say, guys, I've got a new guy.
I mean, I'm not judging people's injuries.
Right.
If I had a broken finger, I might be crying for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Like, if you're not available, then someone else is going to be there playing. And look, I have no faith that this is going to work. I'm at 0.
Yes.
I'm simply watching. I am observing, and that is it. I have no expectations of how this is going to look or work or how it's going to turn out, because based off of the information that I have, which is a lot, it doesn't work out. So I'm just going to watch and observe. I agree with Arians, though. It's going to take some time for him to get going. Finally, the 49ers suffered even more injuries this weekend. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel is dealing with a left hamstring strain and will likely miss.
Not named the Buccaneers in the NFC. Seattle, no defense. Green Bay, can't play physical. Arizona, talented but inconsistent. Chicago, no offense. Rams, some stars, good, but don't feel really special. And then there's Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. The NFC's always been deeper than the AFC, and I believe it is. There's fewer crappy teams. But the top of the NFC is weaker, and Tampa Bay is easily this morning the best team. Easily. The gap between Tampa Bay and 2 is much greater than the gap between, say, Kansas City and the 2 or the 3 or perhaps the 4 in the AFC. For 20 years, all we asked in the AFC was, who is going to beat Tom Brady? That's all we asked for 20 years. The NFC, though, was a carousel of good teams. Seattle, and San Francisco, and Carolina got to a Super Bowl, Philadelphia, and Green Bay. It was very, very good. Tom's been here 7 weeks. It's over. It's over. Like, they're easily the best team in the NFC. It is very LeBron to the West. For years, we all talked about how good the West was. And then LeBron got out here, and you're like, well, Portland's kind of small and doesn't defend in the backcourt. And Dallas is interesting, but way too young. And then there's Houston, and they're small and talented. They're always talented, but dysfunctional. And the Clippers, well, they've always got good players, but where's the leadership? And you wake up and you're like, oh, LeBron just breezed through all of them. The NFC looks so much tougher for years and years until LeBron arrived in the West and Brady arrived in the NFC. I saw this in the SEC. SEC fans, we got Tennessee, and we got Florida, we got Georgia, we got LSU, we got Auburn. And Nick Saban said, oh, that's adorable. Arrived, and all their coaches got fired 4 times. The SEC is all about Alabama and Saban. Urban Meyer takes over Ohio State. Everybody looks small. He didn't lose a game for 2 years. Folks, there's a lot of good out there. There's not a lot of great. There's not a lot of Saban. There's not a lot of Urban. There's not a lot of LeBron. There's not a lot of Brady. He's been in the NFC for 7 weeks. Who's number 2 in the NFC today? Green Bay? Yeah, I watched them play. Over second quarter. You go to the AFC right now. If Kansas City's number one, and I got my herd hierarchy top of next hour, I got an argument. Tennessee matches up with them. Pittsburgh does. We know Baltimore's feisty. I mean, it's what? Like Trent Dilfer talked about this yesterday. It's the accountability, the passion of Brady and LeBron, and the accountability to demand you are all in. You are completely committed to winning basketball.
He's the ultimate fire breather. I mean, Tom Brady elevates. We talked about last week. This is elevate your team. Elevate your entire organization, your entire city. And he's going to demand excellence every second of every day. And if you don't join him, you're going to be out of there. You're not going to be playing much. And look what he's done to Bruce Arians, who has forever been a risky head coach. His teams typically have a lot of penalties, a lot of turnovers, no turnovers, 2 straight weeks. I mean, he's changed the head coach. Nobody changes the culture like Tom Brady.
And it really does remind me of LeBron. For years and years, we talked about all the stars in the West. But the minute LeBron gets over and he's healthy and gets AD, you see all the holes. You see all the holes. You look at, same with Saban. We always bragged about the SEC, and then Saban gets there, and you're like, wow, Tennessee and Auburn are really dysfunctional. Oh, God, so is Florida. Georgia's talented, but never quite has the coach Alabama does. And suddenly they all look really good unless you compare them to Great and Saban, and it's like they're not really that competitive. And the West wasn't really that competitive. I don't even know who the second best team in the NFC is now. I think it's Green Bay. I think. I saw them play. It wasn't competitive. I mean, take the Saints game out. No preseason. It was Tom and a bunch of guys he'd never seen before. They played poorly against Chicago. And that was the moment that Tom said, okay, we're going to be a little feistier here and a little more demanding and be a little more accountable. The good times are over. It's time to ratchet it up. And this morning, I don't think anybody's close. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Cam Newton is approaching this week as if his starting job is in jeopardy following a bad performance Sunday against the Niners. But he's not just thinking about losing his job. He's thinking about losing respect of the locker room.
And the first thing I said, to myself coming home, I said, you keep playing games like that, bro, and it's going to be a permanent change. I don't fear coach's stability or my position stability more so than controlling the locker room. Because knowing, you have your coach's, belief, but my belief is I want to have the whole facility.
He was benched in the fourth quarter for Jarrett Stidham. Bill Belichick claims he was just trying to get Stidham some reps, but I don't know that would be really necessary if Cam Newton was playing well. He was 9 of 15, 98 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. But this was a terrible game for the Patriots. What's daunting is what's moving forward for them. So they're at the Bills, then they're at the Jets, assuming they can win that game. They have the Ravens, and then they're at Houston, which, even though Houston is not a good team this year, they're competitive in putting up points in every game.
If I said take Cam Newton's career, cut it in half, the biggest game in the history of Cam's first half was a Super Bowl.
Right.
I'd argue this is the biggest game in the second half. Forget the Patriots for a second. Cam needs to get some good football on film. Because the Seattle game now, everybody looks great against Seattle. If I'm Cam Newton, I understand winning the locker room matters. I do get that. But Cam also needs, because Cam's got football left. You can make an argument, like he's got 4 good years left. He's healthy. He's big. He's physical. Cam needs to start putting good tape out there. Because if he's not going to be in New England, and it doesn't look like they're a very good football team. I mean, Joy, it's the slowest football team in the league. They're not winning 10 games here.
Well, yes. And look, like personally, I was rooting for Cam, and Cam looked good initially.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe that confused us as to what New England really is.
Yeah. But what they are is rebuilding.
But they weren't a good team. So
8 players opted out.
Right. On top of that. So what kind of expectations did everyone have for New England? I think we all kind of got caught up in what Cam looked like in the first game.
Well, September's fooled us my entire life. Ryan Fitzpatrick has looked like the second best quarterback in the league in September twice. Like, September fools you because the weather's perfect, and all of a sudden you wake up, and this morning it's like Arizona appears to be way better than New England. The Raiders in September. So
Right.
It's like this is not like anybody's fault. We all get fooled by September. Every year it's like Andy Reid would have 12 Super Bowls if the season stopped October 3rd. And then his teams have not quite, like last year, finally they got better at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where September, everybody's healthy, but New England is a totally limited roster.
I felt like this past week was a really pivotal game, a game that they had to win. So as badly as they played is a sign of what they are, because that was a game they really needed to win.
Yeah.
And now they're at the Bills, which is another good team who's trying to win the AFC East, like it's a division game. So he's going to need to play really well in this game. I agree with you. This is a crucial game for Cam Newton, not just for the Patriots.